Hello SGD, and something that I see and I receive often is that, well, we can't even do it today. The 1,200 tonne unfinished obelisk, which is still attached to the earth and was never moved, so it's not a question, could we move that? Because, well, it wasn't. But also the unfinished, still connected to the earth, blocks at places such as Baalbek. So, well, we can't do it today. This is we can't even make a hollow out granite box apparently today. But, well, okay. This is cringe. This is actually in the Baalbek Museum. So the people there should know better. Okay, but this is the image they give. Something like there's 20. It would take 20 cranes to lift this the stone of the pregnant woman. That's also around about 1,200 tons. There's another one that's about a couple others topping out at about 1,600 tons. Well, we couldn't do this today. This is how many Liebherr cranes it would take. Literally just Google 1,200 ton cranes, and this is again the important point. Mobile crane, and it's a boom arm crane. It's got that extendable arm in there. So just one mobile boom arm crane could do it. So it could drive in, set up, lift it, pack down, and be gone by the end of the day. So absolutely we can do it, and what's more important is that this is the worst type of crane to use for heavy lifts. They're very versatile. You can get them into sight, you can get them out of sight, you can pick something up and move it just with the arm, not having to move the body of the crane itself. So versatile cranes, not the best cranes. Many different types of cranes. The reason, so a gantry crane, one such as this, it's over the centre of gravity. Exactly, but if I was to take the motor and the gears and the block and put it onto a gantry crane, I could lift more than 1,200 tons safely, because the gantry crane again is over the centre of gravity. It's not going to tip over. This type of crane, the further you go out, the less it can carry, because it's off centre of gravity and it's going to fall over. So that's one of the reasons why it has a weight limit of only 1,200 tons, even with all the equipment that it has at its disposal. This is called Tyson. It can lift, it's lifted, I don't think they've tested it, but it can lift more, but it's actually lifted 20,000 tons, which is all of the unfinished blocks, all of the giant finished blocks at Baalbek stacked up on top of one another and still have room left over, more capacity. And just to do the whole thing, that's 44 million pounds. Oh my God, all right. So absolutely, any block that has been moved in the past, not only can we lift it, we can lift all of them together at once, pretty much, okay. So this is just absolute bull manure, this particular picture, and again it's sad that it's in the actual Baalbek Museum, because this gives ancient aliens, lost ancient high technology, because, oh well, look, look. No, this is absolute bunk, okay. On top of that, off the shelf, you can get better ones, special made. This is a 100 ton chain hoist, manual chain block. That means that people just pull on the chain, and so a strong person, you probably have a few people on there, but a strong person on their own, without a motor or an engine or any sort of added power, can lift 100 tons on their own. So the trilithons at Baalbek, 8 people can do it. The unfinished obelisk, 12 people on their own. That's half of the amount of giant cranes they got here can lift these types of blocks. Absolutely, we can do it in modern times. These myths of, well, we can't cut it, we can't make it, like even now a box is impossible. Well, these things really do need to die. And one of the classic examples, because again it was featured on Ancient Aliens, these mystery channels again, is this block levitated mass, Los Angeles County Museum, installed 2012. It's 340 tons. Well, the original crane broke, okay, but originally the concept was 120 ton stone, but the project was abandoned because the crane boom broke. Not because they were testing the limits, because in 1969 you could get 120 ton cranes lifting capacity. The reason the project failed was a bad project manager. And when they show this giant trailer, a specialised trailer had to be used. Yeah, this is true, but not to support that weight. A few blocks of wood could support that weight. The reason these are what's supporting the weight underneath is these turnbuckles, off the shelf turnbuckles. You can get 100-ton turnbuckles off the shelf, couple of them, a few of them, 4 to be safe. You probably put 5, 6 or 8 just to be that little extra margin of safety. That is what's supporting the weight, not the trailer. What's the reason for the trailer? And the specialised trailer is not there to support the weight. The specialised trailer is there to distribute the weight. You'll see these type of signs on the highway. Weight limit. Truck with 2 axles can take 8 tonnes. A truck with 3 axles can take 12 tonnes, and the truck with 4 axles can take 16 tonnes. So basically 4 tonnes per axle. That reason is because the weight of all of the weight of that truck is getting pushed down on the tyres, which is then being transferred to the road. So it's a matter of distributing the weight. The more axles and more tyres you have on the ground, the more weight you can lift, because roads are very expensive. Not just the roads themselves, the infrastructure underneath. Now, these are older figures, so 3 to 5 million tonnes in urban areas, 4 to 6 million tonnes in rural suburban areas, 8 to 10 million per mile in other urban areas. So this 106 mile route of this, and conservatively, if they had not done it properly, they would have been up for a bill of $318 million. Maybe up to 500. Now these are all now probably going, the way things are. You add quite a few percentage to this. They would have been looking at a bill where maybe pushing up to $1 billion if they had damaged the roads. This is why they have those weight limit signs on the road, because if you put a heavy load, you absolutely destroy modern asphalt tarred roads. You've destroyed that road. Now you do that for 106 miles, you're going to get a bill to fix it. 5 tonnes per axle weight restriction. Again, this is what happens when you put a heavy road on an asphalt road. Modern asphalt roads are built for speed and for comfort. They're not built to support weight. They're just not designed for that. Packed earth is a much better way to do it than asphalt roads for heavy moves. And again, this is, not a problem. So we couldn't do it. But look at this one. No, it's pure bunk. They get a couple of factoids and then build an argument around this. So, okay. Going back to the 1500s, they wanted to re-erect and move some obelisks in Rome. What they had to do was, no one had done this for a long while, and so they went back to the ancient Roman records and looked how the Romans originally brought these from Egypt. The Romans moved their obelisk much more difficult than what the Egyptians did. Interesting story about, because no one had done it for a long time. They went back to the old records, and as they began the move, the ropes started to creak and to smoke. They were being stretched. Now, what had happened was that the Pope had set up a gallows, and there was a strict law. Anyone who made any noise or distracted the workers was going to be hung. That was the threat. So the crowd's watching in absolute silence. People had not done this for a while. They didn't know all the little nuances, and the rope started to creak. Now, important thing about ancient lifting technology, it's all based on sailing equipment. For sailors, not just to lift, but to manipulate the sail. When the wind's blowing and they have to tighten the sails, there are forces of many, many tons, many tens of tons on those sails. So that's why sailors had to be good at applying strong force, whether it's lifting or pulling. They had to be good at it because they would die otherwise. So that's where ancient lifting technology come from. Now, as this was being lifted and the rope started to creak, a man in the crowd who was a sailor screamed out, "Wet the ropes." And they did that. That saved the project. It could have been disastrous, and I don't know what his reward was, but this is a common theme. Get the people who have got experience to do this. Now, there's another example. At the time when I put up, the heaviest one was 330 tons back in the 1500s, and then they went back to ancient technology, wood and rope. Capstans. This is obelisk in Paris, Place de la Concorde. I think this is about 280 tons. Originally come from Temple of Luxor. On the base of there, they even have the illustrations describing how they did it. Now, one of the problems was they had to get it from the temple over to the river. And how did they do that? Well, they used a ship and they dug a trench to allow the boat to come even closer to simplify the move. Sailed it across the ocean. There it is now. And so again, they're showing how they got it down, how they pulled it onto the boat. Then they had to get across the ocean, of course. So again, the Romans just took their obelisks, Egyptians just took their obelisks down the Nile. Romans just took their obelisks across the Mediterranean. These were brought across, into the ocean, but then we'll look Cleopatra's Needles in London, the same, but then Cleopatra's Needle in New York. That was brought across the friggin' Atlantic Ocean. Okay, now they bring it down and they also show how they got it back up again. Now, this is in the 1800s, but the 1800s weren't using modern crane tools. They were using ancient crane tools. It was still basically wood and rope. Now, they did have the advantage of iron, but iron is not necessary at that point because the timbers available to use for axles would have absolutely supported that weight. So it's, yeah, this is ancient technology on display, but in the 1800s. All right, Cleopatra's Needle in London, it's about 220 tonnes. How did they bring it over? Well, you can even find examples of these types of where you can just roll the rock. This is even described in ancient texts. Very similarly, you can basically go to look at Wally Wallington lifting up a 20-tonne block entirely on his own. Exactly the same principle is being applied here. Wood and rope and leverage. This is to get it across the Atlantic Ocean, Cleopatra's Needle in London. Now we have photography. So again, one of the arguments is, oh, well, those are just pictures. Those are just pictures. You must replicate it. Well, I'm not going to replicate Cleopatra. Well, I will if you give me the money. Okay, but similar. Okay, that's back to the obelisk Westminster Bridge in London. So Cleopatra's Needle, London. Okay, oh, they even did have, that's right, they did have the photo. Just not a problem. Absolutely, you can do it with primitive technology, basic understandings of physics, which go back to ancient sailing. Cleopatra's Needle in New York. That one they loaded into a ship, pulled it out of a ship. There's a image of it being raised. So again, supported on the timbers. So when they go, oh, well, the timbers would crush under 70-tonne weights. This is absolute nonsense. They go, well, that's a pile of timbers. Well, that doesn't matter because all the weight is going onto being transferred down onto the bottom ones. So again, another photo, just ancient technology, ancient principles. We've become addicted to machines, and we're losing our birthright with basic mechanical advantage. There's the obelisk, again, giant, stored on wood, being lifted and raised. Okay, same ones. And then, now the reason they raised it up like this was because the wharf is lower than the ground level, so they raised it up and then got it onto this bridge made of timber. So again, wood doesn't support this weight, absolute nonsense. It absolutely does. Then they raised the obelisk, very similar fashion to the one that they did in Paris. And so when they say, well, it would crush or we can't do it, you need advanced technology, you must replicate it. No. Like, every point is wrong. What about this example of levitated mass? Because look at the giant crane, trailer they had to use. Well, they just don't understand why they had to use the giant trailer. And, oh, we couldn't do it in the past, and this is how many cranes in it. Like, when it comes to lost ancient high technology, ancient aliens, everything they say is wrong. Everything. Now, this picture, this at the Baalbek Museum, this should have been better. Like, this goes on to the people at the museum. Now, I know there were archaeologists and stuff involved in there. Whether this display was diorama, whatever you want to call it, was put up by the museum manager, because they know how this is, whether it's documentaries or other things, well, there's always a money incentive and for tourism, and so this does, one of the things that sells Baalbek and brings tourism is the giant stones and the mystery of them. And yeah, we absolutely, not only could we do it, these type of things today, we'd knock it out of the park. When they say cutting the block, moving the block, you can just look at any quarry footage. So these giant chainsaws are just cutting absolutely giant blocks and throwing them around. This is done every day. Like if we wanted to do this today and move megaliths today, well, it's just not economic. Like, who wants to fund that? Like, for what purpose? They'd rather build a skyscraper and make money out of it. So, yeah, lost ancient. We can't lift. We can't cart. We can't do this. Not just a little bit wrong. Very, very wrong. Very, very, very wrong. And so when you hear this, yeah, it just goes to show how. So it's one thing for the audience who then comment because they've seen these apparent documentaries, but the people who produce these should know better, and the fact is they do know better because they censor this type of information, and even when they're politely corrected, they will just wait 6 months and start repeating it again, and because, yeah, they don't want to undermine the stuff that they've done before. So when you hear this, absolutely, absolutely untrue. You must demonstrate it. No, you must demonstrate why you're so willfully ignorant not to look these types of things up. It's not, you can lead a horse's ass to water, but you can't make it think. All right, so there you go. Done and dusted. This thing needs to die, but there's too much economic incentive just for the people who are making it, and also for the social media sites who see the millions and millions of clicks that this generates and the revenue that they bring in as well. So that's, this is why the algorithm promotes this. The lost ancient technologists like to complain, we're being censored, we're being deleted. No, they are the establishment. They're being promoted by the machine. They delete the comments and then say, well, I'm, look at what's happening to the internet. No, well, unbelievable. All right. No question, no doubt. I can't help you otherwise. Best of luck.